Chairman Oberman, distinguished members of the board, thank you for allowing us to go ahead and tell our story. My name is Matt Burkhart. I am a yardmaster with the Burlington Northern Santa Fe. I am also the general chairman that represents all the yardmasters on the Burlington Northern Santa Fe, as well as 3 short lines, roughly 500 people. Now, what is a yardmaster? A yardmaster is the air traffic controller of the rail industry. Where airlines have terminals, we have terminals, and we have over 40 of them across. I have from Birmingham, Alabama to Seattle. We're highly specialized, and there's 1,800 of us on the planet, so I've got about 1/3 of them. With that, I'd like to tell a little bit about how I got here. Since I'm a 4th-generation railroader, I threw my first throttle when I was 4 years old in Dallas, Texas, on the old Rock Island. So my dad had put me on the engineer's lap and let me run up and down the tracks there. So when I got out of the Marine Corps, I found myself on the railroad. I hired out as a conductor and a locomotive servicing engineer. And then in Halloween of 1997, I was promoted to a yardmaster. I did that for about a year and I was promoted to management. I was in management for 12 years. I had 7 promotions, reaching all the way to the rank of terminal superintendent as a yard up in Minneapolis. There, 2008, I was superintendent of the year, had an injury frequency ratio of 0 in one of the harshest environments that we operate with over 500 employees. So I was pretty proud of that. About 2010, I got crosswise with the vice presidents and they fired me. So I went back to the craft. I was a yardmaster. I worked, and about 4 years later, the union came and recruited me. I've been serving for 7 years now. So I've been on both sides of the fence to see what has happened. I've been across the system. I've worked on management. I've worked also as a union employee. I've seen what it takes to run these railroads. With that, I've got 4 bullet points as to why we're jammed up, why we're in absolute gridlock, and why our shippers, our customers are not getting serviced. And they're fairly simple. I said railroading is not a hard concept. It takes 3 things to railroad: power, crew, and rail. That's it. Something to pull it, somebody to drive it, something to run on. You give those 3 things, we can run all day long, and we're not running all day long right now. So with that, we have several of the focus points that we have is running long trains of 10,000 feet. It's called units per train is what their goal is. Now, what's the problem with this? Many of our rail yards were built in World War II. The tracks are 3,000 foot long. So they don't fit in one track. The yard that I work in right now, when we build a train to this 10,000 foot, it's in 3 different tracks. We have to pull it out, put it together, put the middle, and then the rear. And then it's so heavy, we have to put engines on both sides of it. It's called distributed power. It's about 3 hours. What happens in that 3 hours is the trains don't come into the yard. And so those crews will expire on what's known as hours of service. Every time this happens, we will kill 3 to 6 trains. This is trains that need a second crew or a third crew to make their final destination. This perpetuates our manpower issues. This is not a good way to railroad. I give you a worst case scenario on these trains. When we have these trains, we have a bridge that we go up over towards the mountains. Goes over the Platte River. It's about a half mile from downtown. It's real pretty. There's a walking path downside. When we stop on that bridge, because of the weight of it, we need to stop, make sure the cars are on the track. As we shove back, we've put 5 cars into the river that fly 50 feet down into the ground right next to this walking path. There's nobody walking expecting boxcars to rain out of the sky. We did it this year, we did it last year, and we'll do it again. As long as we continue to do these things, the rules of physics don't change, and it's poor railroading, not to mention dangerous. So the other happens to do with double coal trains. Anybody who's been stopped at a crossing before doesn't like to watch a train as it goes by for 10 to 15 minutes. Now we have 2 of them together. They'll be 270 cars long. They're 250 miles away. We inspect these rail cars, and occasionally there's something wrong with it, and one will have to be kicked out because the wheels have gotten flat or something like that. As we do this, the conductor will have to get on the ground and use that pack set radio. They were never designed to go 2.5 miles. Radios will fail. We have had problems before. We have run into the side of our own train trying to set these things out. These are many of the issues that have to do with units per train, which is the metric that the BNSF has been going for to go ahead and reduce things. I can tell you a lot of stories, but those are 2 extreme ones. It just does not make sense. It's perpetuating manpower issues. It's dangerous. and it's not servicing our customers. All of it's bad. Let's go to another thing. Let's go to consolidations. Consolidations of terminals. Terminals where they said, we don't really need you here. We'll move the work elsewhere. During the coal boom, we had about 500 coal sets running around. A coal train would come in, would pull into a track right up to the gas pumps. They would service it. The carman would drive along the track, make sure the cars were good. And the train would be there anywhere from 2 hours to 4 hours. In places that we inspected these, when they thought coal was going to go away, they shut down Guernsey, Wyoming, Donkey Creek, Wyoming, Edgemont, South Dakota, said, we don't need these anymore. And they moved these to sidings in different locations where the train will pull in, we'll pull the power off, and we'll run it to the nearest gas station. And they're 24 to 48 hours. What we used to do in 2 to 3 to 4 hours, we do in 48 now. That means the customers aren't getting their coal cycle time. Where it goes, it perpetuates the problem. It's just not good sense. So the other, we have Wenatchee, Wisconsin. I happen to have, or excuse me, Wenatchee, Washington. I have a rail yard there. It had yardmasters. It has main line. It has Amtrak. And they decided it would be better to pull the yardmasters out of there, move them over the mountain into Seattle, where it's done remotely with cameras. Are my people qualified? Yes, they're professionals, but there's nothing like having somebody on site where it is to manage these rail yards. That's why we have jobs. With this, there was a derailment with Amtrak in Montana where passengers were killed. I said, they are our most precious commodity and our most precious cargo that we have. And we have pulled people out because it would be better to do it 100 miles away. It makes no sense. The workload that's been put on my people. We train the officers. We're the warrant officers of the railroad. We bring them up. We teach them what it is to come there. And my people are not federally protected under the hours of service. We work 16 hours a day, and we can work 16 hours a day, 365 days a year. We make a lot of money. Okay, that's good. But this makes no sense with what has been shoved onto and asked of our people. My people are the craft of yes. You tell us, we'll do it. My favorite definition of a yardmaster is, I'm solving problems you don't know you have in ways you wouldn't understand. And that's what we do. So the last thing is that the world would like to believe that the Burlington Northern Santa Fe does not have PSR. And I'm telling you that that's just not true. It has roots all the way back to 2009. 2009, there was a group they called Bestway. Bestway came in, breaking railroad down into 6 different tenants with metrics. And it was based on reducing headcount of people, and it was based on reducing resources. I says, it has metrics to this day. It still exists. My son worked for the Union Pacific. When PSR came along, he was in the IT department. He said, Dad, he says, I can't do this. I either am out of a job or double the workload. That's what PSR meant. It makes no sense whatsoever. Things like storing of locomotives. When I was a terminal superintendent, they decided I only needed X amount of locomotives. Well, they break down. It gets cold. It's 30 below. I would talk to Archer Daniel Midland and they would say, hey, why can't you service us? And I said, as soon as I get an engine, I'll be there. And they would tell me, why don't you have engines? You're the railroad. And I didn't have a good answer. It makes no sense. We shipped them to St. Louis and turned them into razor blades. That's what we did with them. So what needs to be done? I like to look backwards. I've been around here for a long time. I've seen when we really operate well. 2004, the intermodal business units were through the roof. We could not get enough locomotives. As soon as they came out of EMD, they were battleship gray. We didn't even wait to paint them orange. We spray painted numbers on the side and we put them in service and we serviced our customers. That's what we did. We threw every resource we could. 2007, Australia went ahead and had a drought. We needed to get grain to them. It's a little port down in Houston when I was stationed down there called Gate 8. We would do 2 trains a month. We did 60 trains in there. We threw resources. It was a lot of logistics. We made it work and we got that grain exported. It can be done. It says it takes planning. It takes common sense. 2011, we were running with 500 coal sets. We run 250 right now and we could do it in 2 to 4 hours of turn time. Then now we're doing it in up to 48. It makes no sense. So what is it? Railroading right here. If I could go ahead and ask for anything, there's 2 simple things that could go ahead and be legislated today. It says a maximum of 8,000 foot on a train. I says that right there, merchandise, coal, you name it, they fit on the main lines, they fit on the sidings, they fit on the meet and passes we can run. We don't need these 3-mile-long monsters running around. The second thing is we need to disincentivize any reason to ever store a locomotive. If you ever find yourself in northern Wyoming, I don't know why you would, but if you were up there, there's a place called Donkey Creek. Donkey Creek, we have 5 miles of engines stored. I've seen them with my own eyes. There is no reason for a train to ever sit without power. That's our customers. So the railroading is real simple. This is for 200 years. We sit there and we haul something from point A to point B and somebody pays us to do that. We're not on track. We're not doing that anymore. Please help us get back on track. So I thank you for letting me tell my story. I'll take any questions anytime. I am at 31st Street in downtown Denver, just north of the stadium. I've
picture where this bridge is that you were back the trains up.
go to where the Rockies are and you can see it. So